Welcome to the Robotics and Automation Podcast by Sudpro, where we explore the latest trends, challenges, and technologies that are revolutionizing the world of robotics and automation alongside industry experts. Welcome to a new episode of Robotics and Automation. Today we are here with Endika Gil, CEO of Alias Robotics. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Xavi, for having us.
You're an expert in cybersecurity, so why should we care about cybersecurity in robotics and automation?
Well, Xavi, if someone hacks into my phone today, my data may get leaked. However, if someone hacks into my robots at my factory, it's not only my economic loss that will be committed and compromised by a cyber criminal, it's my life potentially that could be threatened. And this is exactly how cybersecurity in robotics is more important than security in any other domain.
But normally, factories and robots in factories are run through on-premise software. Normally, they're disconnected from the outside, so how they can be hacked?
So they are very typically connected to an intranet that is more and more exposed to the IT network of the same factory. And of course, the IT network is open to the outside world. However, robots and related machinery are always prone also to remote maintenance by system integrators and by other kind of stakeholders that may require connected access to these machines. And this applies very well to manipulators, but this also applies to wireless technologies such as mobile robots.
Is having cloud system involves a higher risk for the robots?
Absolutely. So that increases the attack surface for a cyber criminal, certainly. However, cloud connection, cloud connectivity, is not the only attack vector that we've seen exploited.
If you had to attack a factory that is using, for example, universal robots on the factory, how would you attack it?
However, Xavi, I don't like to put names to particular manufacturers and to particular technologies that have particular vulnerabilities that apply to particular cases. However, there's an array of attack vectors that an attacker could exploit, starting by the physical attack vector, by dropping, for instance, an USB in the factory that contains malware sufficient enough to keep ransom on the robot, or using open vulnerabilities in the network attack surface, for instance. So each particular case is, let's say, factory-specific and use case-specific. However, there's always an array of attack vectors that an attacker could exploit. And this applies to these particular kind of manipulators, but there's others when it comes to mobile robots or AGVs.
If I was an operator or an operations manager, how would I notice that I am under an attack?
Well, nowadays, it's very, very difficult to notice certain kind of advanced persistent cyber attacks. However, one could delve into the particular system and conduct a thorough security or forensic analysis or security analysis to see how a robot may have been compromised. However, nowadays, cybersecurity monitoring technologies in OT, in operational technology, do not address the required particularities of connected robots.
I have talked with many operations managers. I've worked with robotics. I don't think cybersecurity is in their top of mind right now. My feeling is that most of the cases they would get unnoticed. So is there any data on what is the average number, or what is the percentage of companies that could be compromised right now?
However, Xavi, and answering your first question, it will be in their agenda. And this is because European regulation in particular is pushing very, very hard with NIS2 to put cybersecurity on the agenda and is elevating the duty at BOD level, and coming responsibilities will be very hard. In Spain, this needs to be transposed still, and this will happen very, very soon. Going to your second question, Xavi, the cost of downtime of a single robot can be as high as $20,000 per minute. So this scales to the whole factory, of course, and you can name it. So the economic loss associated to a single cyber incident affecting your robots can bring your factory to a halt, and solutions like ours bring return of investment in a couple minutes.
What are the regulations that companies should be worrying about or taking care of right now in Europe, or what is their adoption plan for the next years?
So when it comes to European regulation, I have to name two steps, two norms that are dominant. First is Cyber Resilience Act, that basically states cybersecurity requirements for digital products with digital elements. This basically groups all digital elements products in two categories. One is the default, and the second one is the critical, which is again split in two classes. One that is less critical, and the second one that is most critical. All robots are within this second critical class that mandates certain cybersecurity requirements, such as a third-party assessment and a mapping of a cybersecurity standard that is relevant to the particular use case of the digital element bearing product, basically.
Are these regulations already in place, or when they are applicable?
So CRA was formally adopted last part of 2024, and this will be progressively into force with the absolute deadline in 2027, I believe, but with the milestones in between that will be basically affecting CE marking for all products that are released in Europe.
What have been the biggest cases of cybersecurity attacks that you have known about?
Well, Xavi, most of the cyber incidents associated to robots are kept below or behind the blanket nowadays because nobody wants this to go public. However, one of the most public instances of basically robots getting hacked at mass scale happened with home-based vacuum cleaners and in the US, basically where these kind of technologies were massively compromised by cyber criminals to basically be ransomed and racial stuff, which was not very, very nice. And honestly, this is something that can be expected at a larger scale. However, again, regulation will be publicizing more and more these kind of cyber incidents when they happen. And NIS2 in particular in Europe, which is the standard that applies to end users of these technologies and industrial end users in particular, will be the one mandating and dominating the norm landscape in Europe.
With the current geopolitical situation in Europe, the US, Asia, could there be a chance of a mass cyber attack? And what would be the consequences of it?
Absolutely. So nation-state powered attacks will become, let's say, more of a trend in the future. I don't want to say that this will become a norm. However, the geopolitical fragmentation that we are witnessing basically highlight the importance of holding strong European technology bases and basically proprietary technologies that will protect critical industries like robotics. And this is why we received also support by the European Union through this EIC Accelerator program last year.
Are robots today safe in terms of against cybersecurity?
So, Xavi, let me make a point here. So there's two words that we know in Spanish as seguridad, and they are split in two in English. So one of them is safety, how the robots may not harm its environment, whereas security is exactly the opposite. How its environment should not affect the particular robots. Being the environment, cyber criminals, operators, and intended attackers, or however, whatever is around the robot. However, there's no real safety without security. They are not separate, they are joined. And this is exactly what is being picked up in safety standards currently, such as the EU machinery regulation that is now has now been reviewed very recently to basically convey that if there's a security risk that could affect safety, then a thorough assessment of the security and safety landscape needs to be conducted. And this affects, again, CE marking. So this is a safety standard that has security requirements. It's very important to highlight that the robotics industry has been traditionally very, very worried for obvious reasons in these safety matters. However, as we have proved in the past, there's a security prerequisite for a complete safety.
What is the percentage of off-the-shelf robots that you can buy today are secure?
0%. Certainly 0%. Secure by default with zero vulnerabilities is 0 to none, basically. But this is normal. It's absolutely normal that a digital product holds vulnerabilities. It's the manufacturer's duty to patch it appropriately and to release the patches when these vulnerabilities emerge. And this is exactly the same as in any other technology.
What's the dumbest security mistake you have seen in industrial robotics?
I won't put any names, but if you pick up many user manuals of most popular robots out there, you will grab details that an attacker appreciates.
Like?
Like default passwords, like default usernames. We've seen lots of stuff in robots, and we have inspected many. So our team has found, I think the figure is now 1,500 vulnerabilities. Some of them are kept open. Most of them are privately disclosed to manufacturers we work with.
Are we too dependent on automation? Could the cyber attack put down an entire industry?
Absolutely. And this will become a trend, not only when it comes to factories and shop floors, but also disrupting very large industries, such as the cybersecurity industry. So we are seeing ourselves when we provide security audits and security testings, that this is a very, very manual process that requires specialized engineers that very typically are highly skilled and very difficult to find. And technologies such as Gen AI will cause a massive disruption also in the security market when it comes to generate basically tools that security professionals will be able to use and get very same quality results in a fraction of time with a fraction of effort.
Do we have enough cybersecurity experts?
There's an array of market studies that basically state that the amount of cybersecurity professionals that are industry ready is about a tenth of what the industry is requiring. And this applies to the OT, but also to the IT, typical or classical cybersecurity domain. Basically, the advent of more cyber incidents and the advent of norms will basically bloom this industry for new professionals, but also new solutions that are able to tackle the market demand.
What's one robotic trend that you think is overhyped?
Humanoids.
Why?
I believe humanoids will play a role when it comes to factory settings and flexibility in the future, but they are not ready just now. They are excellent to convey messages to social masses. They are probably excellent when it comes to convey feelings also to masses and to create the awareness, but they are not just ready to perform as high as a manipulator would do or a mobile robot would do, speaking basically on AMRs and AGVs that are very, very usual in industrial shop floors.
On the other hand, what's an innovation that's not getting enough attention?
Let me name mobile robotics. It's an industry that has flourished in the last 10 years. Basically, it has radiated. The amounts of manufacturers are crazy. Asian technology is very, very hard, rocking very, very hard. There's also premium manufacturers around, and there's an array of players that have let's say, created niche applications that are very interesting, very flexible for this kind of manufacturing environments. And one of the examples we have here in Europe and in Spain is the creation of ARME, which is the Spanish Association of Mobile Robotics, which basically groups some stakeholders with very, very different backgrounds and a joint vision to create something big at the state level.
Warehouse automation is one of the biggest examples of mobile robots deployed. You can see a warehouse with hundreds of robots running at the same time. Normally, they are connected through Wi-Fi, different Wi-Fi mesh networks that are on the facility, sometimes connected to SaaS software or on-cloud software. If I wanted my warehouse to be secure, what would be the process? What would you recommend?
Well, I would recommend, Xavi, that you conducted a preliminary assessment on how the security landscape could be looking for you. This is typically a risk analysis or a threat modeling exercise. And I would advise to monitor and control your fleet of robots. Basically, this can be done by deploying solutions like ours that could be able to monitor and manage security of robot fleets. You name it, how many?
So, coming back to you, what does Alias Robotics do?
So Alias Robotics has traditionally provided security services to the robotics industry, and we hold a product that was the beauty of the crown, or the jewel of the crown, that was called Robot Immune System, that basically provided robots with a complete immune system built inside their computing units.
This is more thought for like collaborative robots or industrial robots, or is also available for mobile robots?
So the coverage of Robot Immune System covered basically cobots, from manipulators to collaborative robots in other domains, AGVs, AMRs, you name it.
How was the implementation of this?
So the implementation of this started with the support of the European Union and with the support of the Spanish government through CDTI. Back in the 2018, I believe it was. I was one of the main architects involved in the creation of this. I was one of the people that brought into the robot the biological primitives that constitute the robot immune system.
Okay. So what does it take to run a company focused on cybersecurity?
That's a good question, Xavi. Running a company in the cybersecurity industry is more than running a company in the, let's say, production domain, because it is highly based on trust. Your customers need to trust you. They need to trust you that you will deliver basically top class as you promised, and you will basically protect and monitor their operations. So if one of my clients' robots goes rogue or basically goes downtime, then I am the one to blame, and we will be the one to blame. This is why your technology needs to be resilient, your services that you provide need to be trustful, and this is why Alias Robotics has created the long traction, because clients love us and love how we do things as well.
How do you keep always updated about new threats?
So we have an array of agents on the threat intel. One of them is certainly us, pen testing and keeping up to date with most popular robots. Now with AI-based reconnaissance, we have a window there as well. And very typically what we conduct is assessments of our own product, because we need to care of us being secure as well.
You mentioned AI. How do you use AI when it works like a black box? How can you keep that secure?
I was very, very surprised, Xavi, and I was in Mobile World Congress yesterday, because I could see AI all over the place. AI agents, build your own agent. Well, that requires its own cybersecurity. This will become a big thing in a few years / months. This will come. So guardrails on AI systems are very, very important, paramount importance, I have to say. If you have played around with these kind of LLMs and so forth, you'll notice a certain amount of guardrails that are in place. Our own product is on the path to comply with Cyber Resilience Act. We know that applications like ours is very, very critical, in particular when they are AI-driven. And we'll see efforts and dedicated, let's say, schemes to secure these particular ones. And in particular, I have to say, when you are trusting third parties, such as Asian LLM providers through their APIs or American ones. And this comes back to the geopolitical matters that you highlighted before.
If Europe doesn't take cybersecurity seriously and companies do not get protected in the coming years, describe to me what would happen on day zero of a mass cyber attack on Europe.
Chaos. Have you lived without electricity for a day, Xavi?
I may have. That's not common.
Could you live without technology for a day? Could you live without a basic IoT devices today? Could we live without robots in our factories, in our hospitals? Could we live without automation in motorways, for instance? The next minute for a mass cyber incident is chaos. And this is why European regulation is trying to push very, very hard this into sectors that are of critical relevance and basically important and essential consecutively. So this is something that we need to be aware of. We don't need to fear because companies like us will be there to help. But this is something that will certainly happen next minute of a mass cyber attack.
Now, in a positive way, what do you think is the future of robotic security? Are we winning the battle or is it getting worse?
You see, it's an arms race. Cybersecurity will be, and has been, always an arms race between the cyber criminals or the attackers and the defenders. And it will be for the coming years, and this is no different from other technology industry. So as cyber threats emerge, as defenders will be leveraging new technologies, new opportunities to defend and basically to provide resilience mechanisms to our industries, our hospitals, our houses, to basically keep up to date. I have to highlight that the big prices out there for cyber criminals are typically in industry. This is because of the cost of downtime of factories that is basically largest. However, there's instances of cyber attacks that could have a potential greater consequences when it comes to safety, such as ransomware being deployed in hospitals, for instance, that could basically threaten lives. We had a very, let's say, very popular machinery and robot-related cyber incident where basically hackers, cyber criminals got hostage a cow milking machine, and basically the farmer refused to pay, and the poor cow deceased within the machine settings, this Samaria.
Who should be more worried about cybersecurity inside of the company? Who is responsible for it?
So this is certainly the plant manager along with the CISO. So this is the persona that are involved typically on the production and on the cybersecurity, let's say, system management and so forth. Typically, CISOs of companies have been very, very worried for obvious reasons of IT environments, but now a risk to the OT and to the industrial shop floor is something that cannot be neglected as these systems become more and more connected, and also the feeling of risk increases with the wireless connectivity.
If I was a CEO, why should I care?
Because responsibility is at your board level. Now with European regulation, your whole board and you in particular will be liable for neglecting cybersecurity duties, for not having a cybersecurity plan in place, for not conducting the mandated actions when it comes to basically assessing your security landscape, to monitor your operations, to have a recovery plan, and to have a, let's say, investigation plan if a cyber incident occurs. And ultimately, it's your business that will be suffering beyond yourself and beyond you having to pay fines, because your suppliers or your clients won't trust you and won't trust your business.
What should I do then?
Well, you should trust your partners in security. This is a message I want to convey. So you need to trust your partners along your way. You have to create the trust. And because very typically you won't be having enough, let's say, skills in-house. Sometimes yes, and sometimes this is companies are up to date, and very typically this is not something that we see. And this is why you need to trust partners and create synergies with the cybersecurity industry, and in particular cybersecurity industry, that will be becoming very, very powerful.
When should I get in touch with Alias Robotics and how?
If you are interested to learn how basically your factory could be hampered by a robot cyber targeted attack, then you should get in touch. If you are interested to know how your factory could be resilient against these kind of attacks, then you should contact us. And in general, if you want to be in contact with the next unicorn with regards of robot cybersecurity, then you should ping.
Thank you very much, Endika. Thank you for this thoughtful conversation, and I hope to see you back soon.
It's been a pleasure, Xavi.
Thank you very much.